Test, test. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, give me just a little time to check audio, make sure we got everything going. I'll do a little intro, and then we will get to some tag games. Cycle through my scenes here and just make sure that everything looks all right. Players, standings, how they got here, prizes. Let's see if I can get the right spot. And then the stream itself. All right, everything looks like it's good. Looks like Charlie in the chat says audio is working, so I appreciate it, Charlie. And I guess that means chat is working also, since I can read what he said. They said. Let's see here. And the players are good to go. So we'll let this timer tick down a little bit more. And let's make sure it's pulling in desktop and all that. I was going to watch a game, but doesn't seem to be anything going right now. So we'll just make sure that things are working here. Give a little bit of time. Playbot's so weird. So incredibly weird. Capture on move 4. And it'll probably be me. Capture, weird capstone placement, weird board state in general. and then it miraculously just comes out ahead. Like I don't even know what it's doing. It's building up some ridiculous shapes, and I'm just gonna pull ahead. So we'll just see what happens here. Is it pulling in the clacks from Playtech? Anybody know? Increase volume. Is that desktop audio or is that voice audio? I'll it a little bit. All right, let me see what I can do. Pull that a little closer. Better? Ah, this is so freaking weird. All right, just a few minutes left. We can stop this really weird game here in just a minute. But now I feel like I'm hooked. Throw down all the walls here. I could also probably talk a little louder. That might help. All right, just a couple minutes left, guys. How's everybody doing tonight? You guys will be on a little bit of a delay. That way it kind of keeps everybody honest on the spectating end. And then, but it does mean that anything you say in chat, I won't get for probably about 20 seconds. All right, couple minutes left. Let's see if we can finish this game out. Probably can't. It'll probably wall here. Okay. All right. That's enough of that. Let's do a little bit of tournament intro. We got about a minute left on the clock before we start this. I'll let the guys know that we got about a minute. All right, welcome to the May 2025 Beginner Tournament Finals. This is going to be between Culture and Owen Shiegel, so that's why the seagull on top of his little logo that I made him. Nobody consents to these. I just like to use it as a little bit of design practice and, you know, a little bit of meme fuel for everybody. All right, this is going to be a set of games, so 2 games, 6x6 board size, and I will be using Gruppler's submitted design for the Playtech board skin contest. So that's what you see here. This is a nope, that's not what you see here because you're on the player screen. All right, Culture versus Owen. A little snapshot of the bracket here. So Culture came over Exodus Eagle to get here, and Owen came over Lambbrains. So that is how we got to the finals here. And they are playing for first place, first pick of these capstones here, or a beginner travel set. This is a laser cut MDF set with the tavern pieces from World Builders or Greater Than Games. And then for everyone who completed all their games, or at least made a good faith effort to do so, I will be giving away a couple of copies of my level 1 book, and we will also be giving away game reviews. So we'll draw lottery prizes once the tournament's all said and done. All right, let me tell them that, make sure they haven't started the game already. Well, maybe they have, maybe they're waiting. They created a board anyway. All right. Let me give them the go ahead, and then we'll hop over to Playtech and get a look at things. All right, so here we go. This is the board that Gruppler sent for his design, and the winner. We had a couple runners up that I will feature in videos coming up soon, but I'm going to do this commentary on this. This is not the board that I'm used to looking at on here, but I'm going to do my best to interpret what I see on the board state, and they're off. Okay. So for this game, we have Owen in white and Culture in black. Like we have a center squabble, so that's kind of white immediately jumping towards the center, and black is going to mirror for now. So white would normally pick one direction to go this way. They're choosing the north-south, at least in this orientation. All right, continuing the mirror. The mirror is fine for black for the first few moves, but then they're going to have to do something. Usually a capstone on the kind of opposite side of the road is standard, or even same side of the road, which then will capture over. Because white going first means that they are going to win tempo going this direction, or in a in a straight out race, white's going to win that. Black choosing to cut in with the capstone. White's normal response here is just to kind of pivot and take this C5 square and continue on. They can also build with E3 and kind of reconnect down here on the F2, F3. First few moves were played pretty quickly, and that's normal in this opening. And then really going to have to take time and think about where the opening is going to go from there. Okay, Owen goes with opposing capstones, which is not bad. It is just white can have potentially a little bit of misplacement here, but we can see how it goes from here. And this is brought to you by chamomile tea, my drug of choice during these games for my nerves. I'm not even playing and I get nervous about this stuff. Okay, so black's kind of, this works as a pivot. Also, if this vertical continues up the C file here, this stone can be a tack threat stone, assuming they get D1 up here, kind of making this stair shape. And just, of course, the direct pivot, they can capture upwards with the capstone for that. And one of the problems is that white is still going to get there first, assuming black does not move their capstone. This C1 can be a horizontal pivot later on. It can also build towards this vertical D3 to the left, possibly. And black still mirroring. I believe I've heard this called the mattress pattern. I can't remember who came up with it, but it's similar to a mattress stitch where you've got kind of this crossover here. You've got black running down this way and then white kind of running up this way. And white has some options here. Continuing the vertical might not be as strong because black can capture up if you were to go kind of B3 here. Even stealing D1 from black, that could be strong. This does get them close to a threat. They can isolate the capstone by moving D3 over to the left, like I said earlier. They can step up with the capstone as well. Okay, so black responding, still keeping the strong vertical and beginnings of a horizontal, and the problem being that the common stone is C3. White is not intact currently, so they can make another preparatory move on this turn. They can take B3 in preparation for moving up. B4. Okay, they take E4, which is a little bit on the wrong side of white's domain, but still not a bad move. They can kind of threaten this over this direction, coming up the F file. Okay, and white putting a stop to black's horizontal, at least at this stage. And black infilling there. Now white kind of has to decide, are they worried about this fork coming over across the 2 row or not? So B2 here kind of keeps this horizontal alive on the bottom as well as adding some to the vertical. They do. Or you can play up at B4 and kind of lean into this horizontal up this direction. And this is game 1 of 2. They could go into tie breaks, assuming that one takes one game and the other takes the other. Owen has white this game, so they will switch colors next game. We'll see how culture does with the white. And then yes, if they tie, then they'll have to go into blitz tie breaks. This is on the 6x6 board size, and there is 0 Comey for this. So whatever you count flatwise on the screen is what the score is at the end. There's no addition to blacks. And sorry about the creaky chair. I'll try not to. I locked it in place, but it's still got some wobble to it. So black might have had the tempo lead there a little bit. I was eyeing kind of b5 up here. This is fine, moving along this horizontal. However, you're never going to get through this impasse right here, or at least not easily, because b2 to the right is just hides that stack behind that capstone. So unless you work somehow to pin the capstone, taking these squares over here, or even building along up this way, which is kind of what I was envisioning, you're going to have a hard time breaking through this formation right here. Squeaky chair adds flair. I like that. That's good. Okay. E5 is a little bit slow for my tastes. Of course, as I just said, white's not necessarily in much danger from this horizontal down here, nor are they really threatened by the vertical currently. So maybe a slow move is okay at this point. You can also, if you notice, white's capstone does have reach to the c4 and the c5. So if they were to get a horizontal going this way, it could be a bear to stop if you have the citadel formation up this direction. The problem with it is that you've given black a turn. Basically, you haven't passed because you've added territory. You are making progress. You're using reserves, but you are taking a turn away from adding pressure. And sometimes it's a balancing act between adding pressure now and building stronger pressure in the future. B4 is a decent move, assuming that capstone comes up. That makes this horizontal fairly strong. They still need some sort of edge connection over here. And because of the E5, assuming that black plays something like A5 or B6 next, we are going to have black ahead in tempo. Just by one, but sometimes one is all that matters. This B4 square has the added benefit of, if it does come over, causing attack threat. Or probably what I would do is step the stack up from C3 to here. Because with this kind of blockade right here, even if black takes B3, you have A3 to counteract it. Both players are looking okay on time. I wouldn't expect too much time trouble, unless you play like I do, where you're pretty slow. There is an increment to this game. Let's see. 10 seconds per move is added to the clock. So besides the 15 minutes of bank time, they get to add a little bit with each move, a little bit of increment. What just happened on the board? A capture. So I'm not sure that capture is going to benefit black in the future. We'll have to see. I think building another turn would have been fine here. Now is white. Maybe an infill here. Continuing that horizontal up top. One thing that, I mean, I didn't mention, but I definitely should, especially at this. Not that these are absolute beginners, but since a lot of attack games do end in a missed road threat, this is going to set up a nasty, sneaky road threat if black can manage to get A2, especially in a later point in the game. If they play it next turn, I'm not sure it'll be missed by Owen. But if they were to wait until the board fills a little more, and assuming that it's still there, say they started edge crawling over this direction, that could be a sneaky threat that would have a chance of winning the game for black agriculture. Let's see. Chat says first flat on flat capture on move 12. Thoughts on that? Um, the way that this board was set up here, I'd say it's a little bit premature. Flat on flat captures on move 12 is not like there's no hard and fast rule like, wait until move 13 or anything like that. It really does depend on the board state. It's really about the reason that you're capturing. If you're capturing, if black had already had a2, then that flat on flat capture would have been warranted because white would have to do something with it. If you're making a flat on flat capture that doesn't respond with attack threat or doesn't gain you something kind of very important positionally, then it's a little bit can be detrimental to your position. All right, so black is building up something here. Getting this horizontal. If white waits too long, then the cap cut does not really become an option. If black takes b3, then that cap's kind of softly pinned there. Yeah, Mayor Gills in the chat said that it wasn't needed, and beginners usually have a lot more by this stage of the game. Maybe a wall or two. Well, depending on the beginner. Some beginners are very wall happy, some are not. And this is the beginner tournament, but I would say that both these players, by this stage of the tournament and their standings in it, are intermediate players. So it can be a little bit deceiving to have this called the beginner tournament finals because they've gotten some competition under their belt. They've gotten a lot of study. I've seen both these guys analyzing games and trying to improve their tech. Wall drop on b3, not necessarily bad. Targeting this b4 stone, that's where that flat on flat capture can come back to haunt you, because black has very little if this threat is negated here. Let's see, someone says Owen's going for a road on 5. They could, so they're 2 away from a threat on that. And that's another one of those that can be a little bit sneaky because that capstone can throw up to row 5. And it would be even stronger. Let's say that white manages to get f2, e2, or some combination of that, then you lock that capstone out of defense there because you can throw over here to complete a vertical road. That's kind of later in the game, and taking those squares would be very obvious at this point when all the action's happening kind of over here. All right, that wall does take. So this horizontal here on 4, on 3 and 4 is pretty much dead in the water. The horizontal here on 2 and 3 is alive. B1, B3, those are options. B3 probably just immediately gets recaptured by the wall. B2 right is still an option to kind of reduce that. And this is one of the conundrums in TAC. Do you immediately make the threat, or do you try and build up something further? Because B3 immediately makes the threat, and yes, it can be missed, but if it's not missed, has your position improved? There are a few options to take care of this. Just moving to B4 minus locks that down. Then black can play B1 next turn. You can also throw the wall, taking all three, leaving one on B3 and covering your own stone here. And then you kind of cut off any shenanigans down here on 2. You also cut off this edge crawl. Okay, white goes with the simple capture down. Now, if B1 is played, B2 to the right is a tack threat. So that would threaten C4 right. And guys cheering for their team. I don't know if they were in your group or not, or just picking sides, but I love to see it. All right, culture taking a little bit of time here. They're still fairly even on time. It does need to decide kind of which direction this game is going to go. I'm hearing C6 for black. So it does go with the threat of B1. A few ways to stop this. I mean, you do have E4 minus over here. It's not the best move, but it does stop that for more than one turn. B to the right is attractive because it is a tack threat. It can be recaptured, but then you're making more liabilities for white to kind of take over later on. C1 right is an option. Trying to think if that's better. It does not make attack threat this turn. It makes a smash threat the next turn. But I mean, C1 left probably just followed up by C1. And it looks like somebody in chat said, how does C6 look for black? I don't know if I answered this or not already, but C6 is fine for black. If it prepares for the capstone moving or something like that. This is attack threat, so we'll first off make sure that the players see that, which it can be missed. There's capstone blindness, which is a real thing. People forgetting that capstones are a part of the road, or that just because of the shape. It's a little bit different. Sometimes it'd be hard to remember in the heat of the moment. So now black can decide, is their capstone in a good position or do they want to move it? If the answer to that is yes, then you attack the road somewhere else on there. So culture decided that, or at least this is me projecting onto what culture is thinking. Culture decided that leaving the capstone here is better than capturing upwards or some other defense and attacks the root of the road here. B2 steals that square from black. If black were to get B2 next turn, that's another attack threat along the same horizontal. It also somewhat rebuilds this threat here. I didn't know if they were asking what game this is, as in, which match or which or what the actual name of the game is. All right, so we have B1 on the board. Black still just rebuilding this threat here. So white may want to take D1 as an option. Trying to see if they can ignore this. I think they could ignore this and play something like A5, build this threat. They should have enough defense in this area to ignore it, although it's very hard to ignore where the action is. All right, and Owen does take D1. So keeping the focus on this area of the board. So let's say that we have a capture war. Oh, well, we don't. So I was going to say, let's say we have a capture war on C2. This capstone can step down, and I don't think that crush is pinned. So black could take back B3. It would be kind of dangerous just because of this vertical. A little far out for me to see. Okay. White is blocking the edge crawl over on the A side of things. All right, questions from chat. Looks like who would I say is winning right now? Just looking at the board, I would say white is ahead. I don't know what flat count is. I'm assuming it's pretty even. Pieces remaining look pretty even, but positionally, I'd say that white has a stronger position here. And they are pretty close in flats. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. But it is black's go, so they can tie it up. 12, 12. Yeah, A3 is just purely a defensive move, it looks like. Okay. I was expecting E1 possibly as a threat. E2, not a threat unless I'm missing something. Does make for stronger threats in the future. However, like I said, I think white has enough defensive material down here that the road is not possible yet. So I'm wondering if black is preparing to capture their own flat here for a threat. I'm wondering if white doesn't take E1, if they will take E1 next turn because that's a threat throwing the capstone or capturing. So if I were playing this as white, I would probably force the issue right now. Capture C1. Yeah, I think I'd probably capture C1. So D1 left right here. Makes attack threat, which would then disrupt something in black's position up here. If they recapture, you win that stack war, or you drop a wall down that direction, and then you pivot to this horizontal up top. Okay, he ignores it, so we'll see. We'll see if black can make something of this. Sometimes when you get too much territory, when either side or both sides get too much territory, threats get harder to stop, and so a lot of times, if the board looked like it did, a turn ago, I would probably try and condense something, um, add a complication to the board, start a fight somewhere that you think you can win, especially if that fight comes with a threat. Because you've let black get a pretty strong threat going here. It can be stopped, B1, C1, um, but either of these placements work. D2, E1. Even if you put a wall here, you have that one, or the cap can smash. You can start taking over in this direction, but then black can just renew. Bill, your beard is cool. Well, thank you. It's getting a little skunk stripe underneath, getting the all the gray coming in. So let's assume that white sees this threat, which he's taking a little bit. So I'm assuming he's not plotting some other set of moves, but is looking at the current threat. Um, Responses, B2 minus. You can start this fight here, but now you lose this. See where we were a turn ago. If you were to start a fight on C1, then exhaustive capture war, and white would have won. Now, with it changing a little bit, now black wins this, and they win it back with tack, I believe, or close to it. Okay, and a wall throw here. Could be a little bit of time pressure there. Could be just that was their plan all along. A wall is strong. Throwing one there leaves a stone behind. Black immediately renews. Of course, now this wall can hop over. But that wall also slows the tempo down for you. And now black's going to have to pivot to stopping this horizontal up top. Any renewal of threats here are easily dealt with. So let's say d2 left, then this wall stack just captures up. So really need to be worried about what's going on up here, because if you don't do anything with that, then white has a5, b3, 2c3 plus, or some sort of throw. Probably wouldn't throw, but yeah, throwing would lose the game, so that would be a bad idea. But white has some strong options coming in. Okay, so black played b3, which does not deal with this threat at all. So now it's not 10u, I don't believe. However, it's going to be a hard threat to deal with. And that misses that road threat here, c5. Okay, so it was not 10u. I believe taking a6 minus, something like that, would have at least given you a few more turns to try and deal with this. So this b3 stone really needed to be a more defensive option for this horizontal butting up top. But good games, or good game. We'll have another one here in a minute. Let me check in with the players, see if they're going to take a bio break. I'll be right back with you guys. Sometimes players take a quick break in between. We'll see if that happens this time or not. Okay, yep. Let me make sure I've got my audio on. Yeah, all right, so 5-minute break before we start the next one. All right, I'll put the timer back up, guys. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I will be right back. All right, back. So yeah, they're going to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to start here just a little bit. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, so Tenyu is where it's kind of like checkmate. So it can be Tenyu in 5 moves or Tenyu in 10 moves. But yeah, usually it's a forced road win. Copper inlay, yeah. Um, yeah, that'd be good, especially in a darker wood like a walnut. That'd be awesome. All right, so we got a couple minutes left. I'll just go through these prizes that everybody's up for here. These are metal capstones from World Builders Market, and they're great. They have a whole metal set that they sell, but it's close to $200. But I've played with it at conventions. It's quite tactile. It's quite nice to play with. And these are the not the caps that come with it. They're just kind of simple turned metal ones, but these are an addition that they have, and we've been giving these away at beginner tournaments and as other prizes for quite a long time, and they're very nice. Got the wolf and hawk there, and second place will get the second choice of whichever one first place doesn't take, and the other option is going to be a laser cut MDF tack board with the tavern pieces. And then for everyone else who participated, made a good faith effort to play all their games, giving away 2 copies of Mastering Tack Level 1 and 2 game reviews. I may or may not do those personally, but somebody on the board or another high level player will do them. And this tournament is brought to you by the U.S. Tack Association. So if you guys want to support us, their memberships, they're like $25 a year. Helps pay for supporting PlayTac, so it's free for everybody to play online. So that's all the hosting, everything like that. It gets us to conventions so we can get the word of TAC out there, and it pays for prizes. I make a lot of the prizes on my own dime, but it does help pay for some of the materials and some of the nicer stuff that we use in like the members tournaments. All right, timer has run out. I believe we're going to start in just a minute. Let me give them the go ahead. Mouse click, tippity type. All right, maybe one day I'll have a whole team to juggle this kind of stuff instead of me trying to keep my cool and click around and everything. But let's get back to here. Somebody said they like the rabbit head. That's good. I think I got one here too. Yep. And back to tech. Even got little stickers made. So we can give those away at some point. Opposite corners open. So this is going to be same players. We got Owen and Culture. They've just swapped colors. So now we have Culture in the white and Owen in the black. And this looks mighty familiar, doesn't it? So center squabble. They're both going after the center. And then, so now we've diverged from the previous game. Now we're just straight up having a race. This is what I was telling you guys during the previous game, where typically white will make a beeline for one side, black will mirror for a few turns, and then drop the cap on the other side. So now white has to decide how they want to pivot. Usually it's going to be with c5. E4 does kind of pivot to the horizontal. It can lock this cap into place, but usually black won't give you enough time to do that. So black is probably just going to continue their road building efforts here. Yep. And I think I saw a Gruppler in the chat. Yep, this is his board design here. I will be, you kind of stay tuned to this channel. I'll be replicating that. I ordered the lumber for it a couple days ago. So I made the plans, ordered the lumber. That's going to come in. I'm going to see if I can replicate this, doing African mahogany and walnut and purple heart, and then I think Brazilian ebony for the border and the grid lines. Hopefully that's going to turn out nicely. So we had white make attack threat. Black came over as intended. I mean, that's the entire point of dropping that capstone over there so you can move it into the game. White responded with a kind of a mirror move there. And now black is setting up a horizontal up top, possibly even a very sneaky vertical. So you get C1 or you get E6 and then you play C1, and that means that you can throw the cap up here. Both are blocked with this B4 right, but it is a possibility. White building around, so F2 or F3 will take will make attack threat. First, second place get bragging rights. All right, black taking F5, white coming over. I'm not even sure that white needed to bring the capstone in yet. It's not a bad move. I mean, getting your capstone more centrally located is not bad. And black comes up to meet them. This is called capstone opposition here, where you have the caps right up next to each other. Some guys really like to play that way. Some guys don't. It does limit your moves that you can make, but it also limits your opponent's moves. So I've come to appreciate capstone opposition after studying openings for a while and seeing when they can and can't be used and some kind of interesting things you can do with it. All right, so black came up, white infilled. White can build around, making this horizontal. Black somewhat stopping that. There's no clear winner at this point, I'd say, on the board. Both players have made a couple kind of slower moves here. Black has done a good job of blocking white out of their initial threat, and white is doing a good job of kind of attempting to renew that. Honestly, more of a shotgun approach these past few turns. So they had ideas in mind here, definite ideas, and then these last two moves, that D3 and then B5, are not all over the place, but they're a little scattered. So I think coming out of the opening, they're trying to figure out what they want to do as their kind of their next thrust. Black going for this horizontal up top on the 5 and 6. So white can take c6 to just kind of put an end to that. Okay. Now black needs to decide kind of where they want to pivot next. Two and three, good option down here. So you can start building out. You can do f3 and start building this direction. You can go ahead and take b2, b3. So b4 is either an attempt to renew this threat here up top or to kind of pivot to the vertical. If you'd taken b3 that turn instead, then you would be in a way helping this vertical as well as helping that horizontal. So it may have been a little bit stronger move. I'm not sure what Tiltak would have preferred there. Tiltak is one of the stronger bots for those that don't know. And it's the one that's in the Discord channel for kind of analyzing your games after they happen to see where the robot overlords think you went wrong. All right. Board view and audio and everything still good. I know we took a little break there, but I don't think I broke anything on my break. We'll see. Okay, and now we do have B3. All right. Thanks, B creature. All right. Okay, so white's pivoting to this horizontal 5 and 6 or 5 and 4, depending on which way they want to go with it. The black wants to take A5 here. And they do. And an immediate A4. So now when black takes C1, A5 can come up if needed. And so black's not in super duper trouble yet here, although I feel like they will be if they let white even one more square up here. I'd be worried. White takes e6. I'd be a little bit worried about this threat building up top here. All right, both players doing okay on time. So now it's time to look at at where you want to go with the middle game here. Um, Black can begin crawling down this side, possibly even f3 is a little bit out of the way, but it sets up a really weird, stronger threat in the future. Um, a3 is the more natural move, pivoting to this horizontal. And as white, yeah, I'm looking at e6 pretty hard right now. You guys are on a little bit of a delay with chat, so apologize if I'm not seeing what you have right away, but it's so that if someone were to watch the stream and tell the players, or if the players themselves were to watch the stream, it's just a little bit of kind of protection on that front. All right, so white steals f3. Just kind of, I'm not going to say that's a throwaway move because it does build kind of this vertical here for white. Um, but it is almost purely defensive. You're stealing that square, which at this point of the game, it's probably fine to do that. But that does give black an opportunity to just continue building down here, or they can go ahead and make that threat at c1. Trying to envision what that gains them long term. It forces a capture of some sort, which then they can try and exploit with a wall or kind of swinging the momentum in their own favor. Oops, sorry. Scrolling on the wrong part. Tried to match my background to the purple heart in the center. And I put a table down. I don't normally play with the table. I play in the blue abyss. But I figured I'd match this nice board here with a little bit of surrounding decor. Okay, black's going to eat up a little bit of time here, and I don't blame them. They need to start collapsing this board. Like I was saying earlier, you get all these flats, and then threats get overlooked, or they materialize and become stronger than you thought. So we're going to see a little bit of collapse here. B5 minus just invites a wall at B5. Cap over doesn't really help. This D2 stone isn't doing much. Neither is this D3 stone. So those are potentials. It's just renewed with, if D3 left, it's just renewed with B2. So then you kind of just, you push your problems off for the next turn. You don't really deal with them. D2 over does work. Now, if white had had E6, like I was saying earlier, then this move comes with a lot more pressure. How it is now, it does give black a bit of a chance to respond to it. choice between tack and studying, and I picked tack. I don't see any sneaky threats at the moment. So this here is a good example of a wall placement here, targeting kind of no matter which stack white chooses to protect, you do have an option. Take the other one. Hilltack would probably say just play a flat there because more flats, more better. But if you can get a wall down there and you can prevent this capstone from crushing it, which I don't see a pin on it quite yet, but there will be. Okay, so now black has the choice of capturing over, capturing down. Capturing over does prevent this crush right here. So that's probably what I would do, because if white were to crush, then you have this road by e3 plus. Also, capturing over is going to help defend this incoming vertical. Looks like it's also pinned because then that capstone reaches over to a4. The sneakier pin there, be harder to see ahead of time. Okay, threat is made. Yeah, we're not to that point yet where the robot overlords know everything. So we do have a chance, and they are still beatable. They still do make bot mistakes, so it's good and bad to have that level of analysis available. I will say that it makes beginners a lot stronger, a lot quicker. Okay, so let's go over options here. How black can defend this. E3 right is an option. This wall that was kind of, I mean, the reason that you go E5 right is to then offer protection up here as well. You have E5 minus, which can work for future threats. You have F5 minus. Okay, they took the whole thing. Maybe to defend D6. I'm not sure exactly. So as white, I mean, not automatically, but you can play C5 here, or you can ignore it and build down here at E2. If you play here, and then we have something like 2d5 plus, then that comes with a attack threat from black. Useful in that regard. But then you kind of let white do what they want to do anyway, and they do d2 left, which breaks your pin on this capstone up this direction, kind of interrupts your horizontal you were coming up with, and builds white's own horizontal. Another way to come at this is f6. Then you kind of build the road from the opposite direction. You give black a little bit less ammunition to cover with this stack if they wanted to. It can be harder to see. It can be renewed with b5, threatening to crush c5. And it builds your vertical over here. Okay. So, my prophecy has come true. Okay, and black does deal with it in the manner that I suggested. This f6 does give them a little bit more of a counter threat here. So f6 minus. e5 plus is similar. Sorry, e4 plus. Similar but different because it allows that. Whereas f6 minus does not, because that's pinned. Now white needs to choose how they want to respond. A flat at e4 is attack threat, and it threatens a, if not tenue, then something close with that e4 rate. Capture war on e5 is not tenue, but it's close for white. So if black were to 2d5 right, and then white responded, they'd have a threat going this direction and this direction. However, it does have the e6 stone in common. I'm not sure if then it could be renewed and made actual tenue. It probably can by f5. Then the whole stack comes over after this capture happens. I would recommend not 2d5 right. Black's capstone is kind of softly pinned in place. They cannot come down here to make their own threat because that just leaves that space open for a white road. Okay, so we have e4 plus. I would expect, or e3 plus onto e4. I would expect an e3 as a response here. I think a wall is a little bit too slow here. I'd say slow might be the term I use there. Because if you capture something with a wall, it's not an immediate threat. It does take a minute to build up. You have to be able to remove that wall from there for a drawbridge. Why e3? So e3 builds your horizontal. It keeps that space from black because if black gets e3, it's attack threat. It kind of adds attacking stones beside black's only kind of main thrust that they have going on right now, which is this kind of horizontal. It's not attack threat this turn, but it is decently strong. Attack can be one of those games where if you go for the kill too early, you wind up in a lot of trouble. Like if White had tried to force this over on this side after that turn, 2d5, 2e5 minus or something like that, then they kind of lose their steam once wall is dropped or once that capstone stack gets a hold of that, and then they have to start rebuilding. Owen getting a little low on time here. 3 minute 30-second mark. So that's about half the time culture has there. And time trouble is a killer. You just gotta be aware. So that wall stops these shenanigans up here. Can potentially target this for some flat count gain later on in the game. However, it does give White a turn now to add some defense or continue building threats. Uh, remember I was saying don't push it? All right, so 2e5 minus here. So by pushing that, so those threats were, I'm not going to say empty threats, but they were pretty empty. Um, they can be dealt with in a few different ways, and when all's said and done, now you have kind of ruined your chances over on this area of the board, and you've given black an opportunity to cover this horizontal that you were building as well. All right, so now not a threat by black, but adding territory, building towards this horizontal, strengthening this defense on this side and that vertical just a little bit. Now white needs to kind of figure out a way to get out of this. They're not in a jam per se, but they lost a lot of steam playing those games up in E5 area. Probably just taking C5 is going to be the recommended play here. And then if white takes C5 as black, I'm probably taking B2 as next turn. So what taking B2 does, it increases the strength of this vertical right here, and it adds a little bit of protection from white's attack threat with D2 left. Okay, that is what we see. Capstone is pinned from going to C3 because of the black capstone reach over here. And this is where white needs to be very careful in the coming turns. Black gets B1 as well. That's a real kind of 10U breeding ground over here, because you'll have almost a double set of stones going all the way down the board. You can see white has quite the block of stones going on here, kind of a bastion. As black, do they have 10U? A5 minus, close. So now you have to do D2 left, I think, which is attack threat, and it might be missed because, like I said, the board is covered. Lots of road threats going every which way. I guess you can throw the capstone down, but then you're leaving flats here to then kind of jump up and renew the threat. All right, culture has 4 minutes to decide what to do here. What's fun about D2 left is that if B2 right happens afterward, then the cap throw down to C2 is still attack threat. Now we'll see if black notices. Hopefully they do. It can be very hard to kind of get in your own head and feel like your plans are the best plans and they will always work. And so if we see something like A3, that's going to be a tragedy here. B1 is completely missing this threat here. It happens. That is the game. Missed threats are a real thing. And Owen has less time to think about what to do here. I would go ahead and use this wall stack that you have. Because black really just needs to try and buy themselves another turn. There we go. So that slows white down enough that they can't immediately renew. They can make attack threat with E4, but it's easily handled. Okay, they do. Maybe putting clock pressure back on Owen. Oh no. I'm gonna hope that was a misclick. We'll wait for the. Okay, yep. Undone by a move. Okay, yeah, meant to go down. Tournament rules, you do not have to you do not have to honor a misclick. However, most players do if it is obviously a misclick. That was either a misclick or a resignation there, and I would err on them making a misclick. All right, so black's looking pretty strong here. I don't know if they can put enough time pressure on Owen to make him mess up or not. You can take over with the wall onto F2. That kind of shuts us down. Add a wall there. They can renew here. It's really threats are not pointless, but here some sage advice for you: pointless threats are pointless. Yeah. Easily defended threats that leave your opponent in a better position. But time pressure, tournament pressure, it happens. I make stupid mistakes all the time. Made one yesterday in a league game. Okay, yep. So he did renew there. Another wall's probably not called for. You can capture over with the cap stack. Puts your cap a little bit out of position, but with how things are looking, it'd be fine to move the cap over. I don't like the wall down as much. You allow this stack to run away slightly. You even allow a renewal here with E5. Okay, he chooses to run away. Another attack threat can be missed. This D3 over to the right. A little trickier to see. You can even do some off the wall defensive stuff here, like moving this E2 stack up to E3. Not that that's a good move per se, but it does put the ball back in your opponent's court, and it does defend the threat. All right, so as white, what do you do with a minute 20 on the clock? You've still got impending doom over here. Okay, you renew the threat in an even sneakier manner. Of course, this wall just comes down to block. Owen, with 45 seconds on the clock, is able to see that. Now white is out of threats on this side of the board. They would need to play defense over here. Just going for building. You know, building's not bad. However, that does give up A3 or B1. B1 may be a little stronger. B1 is a little stronger. Yep. This is not unstoppable. It is very annoying, however. So now you build up a lot of liabilities very quickly defending this kind of massive threat over here. Do that, then black just takes, and that is 10U there. I don't know if he sees it 25 seconds on the clock, but okay. But it makes a move anyway. This is just a kind of a capture recapture here. 2c2, that takes back. Cap can't throw to stop things. Wall won't stop both of those, and you have a citadel up here, won't control it. So that is game, assuming that everyone does not run out of time. They have too many pieces to get rid of them to prevent a road win. There are no sneaky threats on the board that black missed, so white cannot make a road this turn. So, yep, and that is a resignation. Okay, well, I mean, it's playing it out. It's not a resignation. All right, good games, guys. Looks like Owen is going to be our winner for the 2025 May Beginner Tournament. And I will probably try and get some of the finals games from the Rogue Tournament going on as well. Depends on if I can get my schedule to line up. I just happened to be off of work today, so we were able to schedule this. Yeah, no Blitz tiebreaker. Sorry about that. Those are, you think I'd stumble in my words for the slow games. Just wait till we get to Blitz. I can stick around for a minute if you guys want to do a review of these games. Just let me know. Let me congratulate the players real quick. So let me put you guys back on a holding screen. Owen's in chat saying we should do a review. I guess if you're in this chat, I'll post it in Discord too. But let me know which of the prizes you want. If you want the capstones or the travel set. All right, and Owen wants the travel set. Okay. All right, so Owen is going to take the travel set. I can pop the prizes back up here for those that are still around or don't remember what they looked like. So Owen is going to take one of these. I will laser cut that out, pop some stones in there, and get it out there. You can just DM me your address. I'll be in touch on Discord as well. And that means that Culture is going to get these fabulous capstones from World Builders Market. And I mean, not a bad prize if I do say so myself. So yeah, if you guys want to do a review, we can get something up real quick. Let me I'll not pop it into Discord yet. I'll let you guys do that. You can do analyzing game on it later. But start with the one that's freshest in my mind here. Sorry for the blinding light. this is my screen I use for getting the PNGs for my book stuff. So that's why it blindingly white and paper looking. It's not the cool PTN normal soft grays and everything. All right, let's thumb through this thing real quick, guys. And I don't have review on. If there's a particular board state you guys want to see review wise, but let's get back to this. I'll try and remember what I said in commentary. So we had a mirrored center squabble opening, capstone. This E4 here, I think, was kind of a misstep by white. They should have pivoted to C5. Now you give that up for black, and then once black cuts over, you're forced to do something to stop their tempo. And then we had a few turns of building. White gets their capstone back in the game. Infills. So infill, not a bad idea here. Just keep that territory. And then we had more building and more kind of steals from each player, where they're not gung-ho for a certain direction, but they're taking spaces from their opponent. This was another slight misstep, capturing without needing to. If you have to do a flat on flat capture, you have to do one. But if you have the option, try and orchestrate the board so that your flat on flat capture is also a attack threat of your own, or it slows your opponent down for more than one turn. This is when black begins to build their horizontal and vertical. I think I talked on the stream about, where was it? B4 right here. That B3 was a good option as well. And then they took it next turn after that. White kind of abandoned the B5 square there. This was a good build up along the side. I mentioned this move during the commentary, the F3, a little bit slow of a steal there. And then that wall was also mentioned. Owen did choose the correct direction, in my opinion, of capturing over with that wall. That wall is pinned because we have that. And white builds, makes a threat, black captures over. I mentioned that F6 as a good way to bridge both directions. Kind of a repost by black making their own tack threat, then white making their own tack threat. And this is somewhere in here was where they pushed it too much. Right here. So pushed it a little too much there. You don't have enough resources in here with these walls to secure the kill, so pushing it there kind of opens you up to a little bit of a mess of trouble. Then black gets their walls activated. Their walls are well protected from white's capstone, so there's no kind of crush threat there. Sorry, guys. All this talking. And then this is where white just had a little bit too, they were behind a tempo and they didn't have enough defense over on that left side of the board. Black did a great job of slowing tempo enough to reactivate their threat on the left side. Again, white didn't address it. They made a threat over here, which could be overlooked. Black's all focused over here. Black spotted it, shut down those threats. And that just takes time, takes practice, lots of games to see that this is an empty threat is hard. because you have to see how those materials, how those defensive resources could be used. And then black secured it here. I don't know if this is Tenyu here. So we've got that option there as a defense. Because black can renew here, but then white has more resources to attempt to stop that. And then, I mean, there's all sorts of silliness that can happen, but I think white could have stopped it there. Because that is stoppable. I'm not saying these are real moves. These are just possibilities, ways that things could have been used to slow down or stop that. Someone's gone blind. Is there dark mode on this? I don't use my eyeballs, guys. I just... okay. Hey, there's dark mode on my browser, because that's what I use on my browser. Let's go back to the first game that I have hazier remembrance for. All right. So, again, your eyes are dead. I'm sorry. Very similar opening to the one we just did, except we had the more of the mattress style here, where the sides kind of cross over. Both guys doing a good job of combating their kind of opponent's early moves. This was questionable flat on flat capture there. And then white was able to basically shut down a lot of what black had going on. There was a questionable one here. In the commentary, I said that white should start a fight here. I don't know if that's the right move or not, but I would have taken here on C1. I am going to turn the analysis on just for a minute and have Tiltac tell me how wrong I am about that. So I saw D1 over pop up first. However, Tiltac is not worried about this threat down here. So it just says play A5. Oh, I have confused it. Nope, there we are. Back to it. Dark mode is the default. Yeah, I've got different settings. Like I said, I pull my PNGs from my book on here, so it's what I'm used to looking at. So I don't have to change themes. My phone is different. My phone is the default, very soothing tones. Let's see how much the eval drops if we do D1 over. So we're hovering around 79% there. Let's see if we give Tiltac a little bit of guidance here, what it thinks. So we dropped about 5 percentage points there. Okay, I'll turn that off and we'll go back to the original branch. So black was able to make this stronger threat here. White made the throw down. And black renewed. And this is another one of those states where it takes a long time to see that pushing this threat is not going to get anywhere. And then we had the missed road threat here. This is unfortunate, but I mean, similar to how Owen had built up that kind of double row of flats in the first game, or in the second game, the first one we reviewed. We see it here and how much harder it is to block something like that. So black would have to cut at the root for this. They can move over this direction. But I mean, you end up with silly sequences where kind of white just is able to renew, black can make attack threat, um, but white is able to kind of defend and deflect here, even capture, even give them that. You know, that would not be the sequence of moves, but white can continue to put pressure, and black just ends up building up these liabilities. All right. Hopefully that kind of lightning review there, going through what we did, helps you guys out. Let's see where we. Yep, that was the end. All right. I have a 3D printer to unbox and dinner to eat and family to see and all that. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and I'll catch you for the next one. Actually, since there's a little bit of a delay, I'll stick around just to make sure there weren't any kind of parting shots, and I will put you on a calmer screen for your eyeballs.